There's a video moving through your recommended feed right now. It claims an artificial intelligence looked at 5,000-year-old clay and found something hidden inside it, something scholars missed for a century. Millions of people have watched it. Almost none of them have asked the one question that actually matters. Did anyone check? That question is where the story starts, not with ancient gods, not with forbidden frequencies, with a much stranger and much more modern problem. The fact that right now, today, an entire genre of content is teaching people what Sumer was, and almost none of it comes from anyone who has ever read a cuneiform tablet in their life. Here's what's real. Around 3200 BCE, in the marshy floodplains between the Tigris and Euphrates, a civilization we call Sumer invented writing. Not language, writing. The physical act of pressing symbols into wet clay to make thought outlive the person who had it. They used a wedge-shaped script called cuneiform, and over the following 3,000 years, at least 15 different languages across the Near East borrowed that system to record everything, from grocery lists to royal propaganda to the oldest story ever written down, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 tablets from this world survive today, scattered across museum basements in London, Berlin, Chicago, Baghdad, and Philadelphia. And here's the part that should stop you. Most of them have never been fully translated. Not because no one wants to, because there simply aren't enough trained cuneiformists alive to read them all. Think about what that means. A civilization that invented writing left us a written record so vast that human scholarship, after 200 years of trying, still hasn't caught up with it. That's not a conspiracy, that's a math problem. And it's the exact math problem that made this whole viral phenomenon possible. Because into that gap, that genuine, real, documented backlog of untranslated human history, something else has stepped in. Artificial intelligence. And this is where the story splits into two completely different paths, and almost nobody watching these videos realizes they've been shown only one of them. Path one is real. It's slow, it's boring by YouTube standards, and it's actually happening. At the University of Chicago, a project called a Deep Scribe has been training computer vision models on annotated tablet photographs, teaching machines to recognize individual cuneiform signs with accuracy climbing past 80%. Not translating meaning, just identifying which of the roughly 600 symbols a scribe carved 4,000 years ago. In 2023, a team of computational linguists published a peer-reviewed machine translation model trained specifically on Akkadian, one of the major cuneiform languages, in an academic journal. A system built to assist human Assyriologists, not replace their judgment. And in mid-2025, researchers working with Iraq's University of Baghdad used AI-assisted fragment matching to help piece together 30 scattered clay fragments into a coherent Babylonian hymn from around 1000 BCE, praising the ancient city of Sippar. That's a genuine breakthrough. It took a team, a museum archive, careful cross-checking against known grammar, and it got a quiet mention in academic circles. Not 60 million views. Read that again. The real discovery didn't go viral. The fake ones did. That's not an accident. That's the entire engine driving what you're seeing in your feed. Because path two, the one actually generating the traffic, works completely differently. Someone takes a photograph of a cuneiform tablet, often one that's already been translated decades ago and sits quietly in a museum's public catalog. They feed it into a general-purpose chatbot, Grok in this case, though the same thing happens with other models. And they ask it to interpret the symbols. Here's what almost nobody explains to the audience. A chatbot like Grok is a language prediction system, not a trained epigrapher. It has not walked through the physical tablet with a magnifying lamp checking for wear patterns, breakage, or scribal correction marks the way a human Assyriologist does. It generates the most statistically plausible continuation of a prompt. When the prompt is ambiguous, and fragmentary 4,000-year-old cuneiform is about as ambiguous as text gets, the model doesn't refuse to answer. It fills the gap, confidently, fluently, and often completely wrong. This is not chaos. This is a predictable failure mode with a name, hallucination. And it's the same failure mode that makes AI confidently invent legal case citations or fake historical quotes. Except here, instead of a lawyer catching the error in court, the output gets dropped straight into a video titled, "What Grok AI Found Hidden in Ancient Tablets is Hard to Believe," and the algorithm does the rest. But here's where it gets worse. It's not just that the AI might get details wrong, it's what kind of wrong it tends to get. Because buried in Sumerian religion is a genuinely fascinating set of figures called the Anunnaki. A term meaning something like those of royal blood, referring to the major deities of the Mesopotamian pantheon, gods of sky, earth, water, wisdom tied to fate, judgment, and cosmic order. That's the real mythology, documented across thousands of tablets, studied by actual historians for over a century. But starting in the 1970s, a very different version of the Anunnaki began circulating. A reinterpretation claiming these gods were literal extraterrestrial visitors who genetically engineered humanity and left records of their eventual return. That theory has been rejected by essentially every professional Assyriologist and archaeologist who has examined it for reasons that have nothing to do with gatekeeping and everything to do with the actual grammar and content of the tablets involved. And yet, that fringe reinterpretation is almost exactly what these AI-generated videos keep independently reproducing. Mentions of ancient astronauts, hidden timelines, forbidden frequencies, coordinated cosmic disclosure. Think about what that means. It's not that the AI stumbled onto a real hidden truth that scholars suppressed. It's that decades of pseudo-archaeological content already exists in enormous volume online. Books, forum posts, old documentaries, fringe wikis. And that's exactly the kind of material a language model has absorbed and learned to imitate. When you ask it to reveal hidden secrets in ancient tablets, you're not excavating history. You're pointing a very sophisticated pattern matcher at 50 years of conspiracy literature and asking it to remix the greatest hits. The tablet is just the prop. The mythology was already written, not by Sumerians, but by 1970s paperback authors, and the AI is fluent in their voice too. And this is where everything changes, because now you have to ask who benefits from this, and the answer is uncomfortable. Every one of these videos follows the same commercial logic. A dramatic thumbnail, a title implying secrecy and suppression, an opening line about tablets sitting silent in museum vaults for a century, a phrase that shows up almost word for word across dozens of unrelated channels, which itself is a signal these aren't independent researchers making independent discoveries. They're using the same content templates, sometimes plausibly the same AI tools, to mass produce the emotional experience of revelation without the underlying substance of one. Mystery sells. Suppressed knowledge sells even better. Scientists shocked outperforms. Researchers cautiously note incremental progress, by a margin that would make any advertiser blush. And a viewer scrolling at midnight has no easy way to tell the difference between a genuine AI-assisted translation breakthrough from a university lab and a chatbot improvising ancient astronaut fan fiction. Because both are wrapped in identical language. AI translated, hidden, shocking, changes everything. What most people are not seeing is that this isn't really a story about ancient Sumer at all. It's a story about what happens when a technology capable of producing fluent, confident, authoritative-sounding text at zero marginal cost meets a topic where almost no one in the audience has the specialized knowledge to fact-check it in real time. Cuneiform is close to a perfect target. It's old enough to feel mysterious, complex enough that a wrong translation looks identical to a right one to an untrained eye, and understaffed enough, academically, that no expert has gotten to this specific tablet yet is often a true statement, which makes, therefore, the AI got there first feel plausible, even though it isn't the same claim at all. And here's where the stakes escalate again, because this problem is not staying contained to Sumer. The same pattern is now spreading to actual unsolved scripts, writing systems that remain genuinely undeciphered, like the Indus Valley script from the Bronze Age civilization along the Indus and its tributaries, or Linear A from Minoan Crete. Both real unsolved problems that serious computational linguists are working on using far more rigorous methods than a chatbot prompt. If the AI found hidden secrets template migrates to those scripts, and there are early signs it already has, the damage compounds. Because, unlike cuneiform, where a century of trained scholars can push back against a bad AI translation with an established body of comparative texts, the Indus script has no confirmed translation of any tablet, ever. There is no expert consensus to check a viral claim against, which means a confidently wrong AI-generated translation of Indus script could enter public understanding essentially unopposed because there's no established truth yet to contradict it. Now hold that thought, because it connects to something bigger than archaeology. We are entering a period where AI-generated claims about the past are being produced at a volume and confidence level that outpaces the field's ability to verify them. Not because scholars are hiding anything, but because verification of a single fragmentary tablet can take an actual specialist months, and a chatbot can produce a translation in 9 seconds. That asymmetry is not going away. If anything, it's accelerating, because the tools generating this content are getting more fluent, not less, and the audience appetite for tidy, dramatic revelations about hidden ancient truths is, if anything, growing. According to informed observers in the digital archaeology and information literacy space, the actual risk isn't that people will believe one specific fake claim about Sumerian frequencies or Anunnaki timelines. It's cumulative. Every video like this that goes unchallenged slightly recalibrates what a viewer expects ancient history to sound like. More secretive, more sensational, more aligned with entertainment pacing than with the genuinely slow, careful, frequently unglamorous process real decipherment actually is. Multiply that by thousands of videos, millions of views, and you get a public understanding of the ancient world that has been quietly reshaped by engagement algorithms rather than by evidence. So where does the real power sit in this story? Not with the Sumerians, who have been dead for 4,000 years and have no say in any of this. Not even really with the AI companies, who built general-purpose tools that happen to be extremely good at sounding certain about things they don't actually know. The power sits with whoever decides what gets amplified. The recommendation algorithms, rewarding the most dramatic framing regardless of accuracy, and ultimately are with viewers, whose clicks are the only signal any of these systems actually optimize for. That's an uncomfortable kind of power to hold because it means the correction for this problem doesn't primarily come from regulation or from the AI getting smarter. It comes from audiences learning to ask, before they share something, the same question this whole story started with. Did anyone check? The consequences of not asking that question are already visible. Museum educators and university Assyriology departments have started fielding public messages from people convinced of specific claims, genetic engineering by ancient gods, hidden numerical codes, prophecy embedded in cuneiform, that trace back not to any tablet, but to a chatbot session someone had at 2 a.m. Some of these departments have begun publishing plain language explainers specifically to counter viral AI archaeology claims, which is a strange use of scarce academic time. Genuine experts spending hours debunking outputs that took a stranger 9 seconds to generate. That imbalance, the sheer asymmetry between how fast, confident misinformation can be produced and how slow patient correction is, might be the real story hidden in this whole phenomenon. Not something the Sumerians buried in clay, something we're burying ourselves, one viral upload at a time. And yet, and this is the part that keeps this story genuinely open rather than neatly resolved, the underlying technology isn't the villain here. The same category of tool, used carefully, cross-checked against trained human expertise, publicized through peer review rather than upload buttons, is quietly helping real scholars work through a genuine 500,000 tablet backlog that has sat untouched for a century. Deep Scribe's sign recognition models, the Akkadian translation research, the Baghdad hymn reconstruction, those are not hype. They are small, real steps towards something that could eventually matter enormously. A public, searchable, reasonably reliable window into the oldest written thoughts our species ever recorded. The technology that's being used to manufacture fake revelations is, in more careful hands, capable of producing real ones, which leaves an uncomfortable, unresolved question sitting right where this story began. As these tools keep improving, as they get better at sounding certain and better at mimicking the texture of real scholarship, will the gap between the fabricated version of ancient history and the verified one get easier to see, or harder? Right now, a trained eye can usually tell the difference between an AI hallucination dressed up as a discovery and a peer-reviewed translation. But that gap depends entirely on the continued existence of trained eyes, and on audiences caring enough to seek them out instead of the version that arrives first, dressed in a better thumbnail. Somewhere in a museum basement tonight, an actual Sumerian tablet is sitting untranslated, waiting for a human being with the right training to eventually get to it. Maybe next year, maybe in 20. And somewhere else tonight, a new video is uploading, claiming an AI already got there first, already found what nobody else was allowed to see. Only one of those two things is true history in the making. The other is a story about us, about how easily confidence can be mistaken for evidence, and how fast an old civilization's silence can be filled with whatever we're most eager to hear. Which one keeps getting the views isn't really a mystery buried in clay at all. It's a mirror, and it's still watching to see what we do next.